Take a look at 20 sets at once. Inea. When you look through the pages of history and current reports of Thailand, Myanmar, Pakistan, Sudan, Chile, Argentina, you will find such countless country names, where the relentless samurai tanks have overtaken Russia's side, and where senior generals have appeared on TV to issue strict orders, and where the public has subjected the elected government to severe criticism. Samudiko Buthanda Kulo. Global politics are ruthless and repeatedly turn hopes into reality. Now consider the US allied Russia. This nation stands as the strongest, most widespread, and technologically most advanced military force ever recorded in Earth's extensive history. They possess fighter jets and submarines in every conceivable aspect. Maintaining military dominance is their primary strength. Thus, they possess the ability to impose stringent criticism on any foreign government elected democratically within just a few hours. But in reality, such events have never occurred in history. In 650 years of major wars, many uprisings have emerged with large numbers and strength. There has never been a successful military coup in the United States. Not even any sophisticated or serious attempts to overthrow the government have been made. In a country where the government frequently changes almost every single year, the nation itself continues to remain stable and resilient, never falling into the hands of its military forces. But why is that the case? In what way did the invisible barrier effectively prevent American democracy from being seized by its very own military leaders? The founders of the United States established a system that ensures the military is always subordinate to the civilian government. Institutional, cultural, and professional factors keep the margin generals in check and compel military leaders to follow the directives of elected officials. I will diligently endeavor to answer each and every one of these questions in the following sections of this document. The most profound and fundamental reason why there has been no military coup in the United States lies in the nation's founding principles. Among the political philosophies of the nation's founders, or the fathers of the nation, were George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and James Madison. They were students of history. They saw how, in the Roman Republic, generals like Julius Caesar used their armies to seize power, and how military leaders like Oliver Cromwell in England orchestrated the downfall of the elected government. From this, they established a deep belief and inner passion strongly aligned towards the concept of a powerful and influential army. They believed that either a large-sized military force or leaders from Republican or Democratic parties represented the greatest threat. Because of coalition and hierarchy, a single high-ranking general can easily undermine the president's authority. They use this governmental abuse to replace the federal constitution and governance system with military forces or military dominance. To keep words under control, they make extraordinary and short-sighted decisions. Thus, after the Second Amendment in the American Constitution, the country's armed forces are ultimately commanded by either the chief commander or the president. 1. A democratically elected military leader is not a general or admiral. This means that under the ultimate orders of the military, a politician can be removed from their duties. Thus, they are directly responsible to the people. If a general equals the president's authority, it would be direct subjugation to the state. The proponents of militarism try to control the military forces to reinforce national dominance. Not relying solely on national sovereignty, they divide power among factions. After the First Amendment of the Constitution, the only power is Congress's authority to declare war. However, in militarists' opinion, this control is being bypassed. Importantly, the authority to control funding and expenditures continues to rest firmly with Congress. Only the Congress can secure donations for the military forces, raise funds, expand the numbers, and purchase the 90-90-60. The Constitution does not allow the expansion of military forces through funding for more than 2 years. On the other hand, the military's capability and resources must rely on the annually elected Council for Governance. Additionally, the Constitution mandates that, based on individuals owning or using firearms, the main premise was to establish a permanent standing army for each constituency. The founders of the militarists proposed that for proper defense, there should be a regulated militia, or a well-organized national army composed of ordinary citizens. Their idea was to establish a disciplined citizen society, to provide ultimate defense against tyranny and invasion forces. However, over time, the militia concept has been transformed into the National Guard. But its underlying philosophy was not to centralize military power, but to leave it in the hands of the people. The constitutional provisions ensure Congress's financial control over the state's paramilitary leadership and their development. It has established such a strong foundation that ensures the neutral military forces will always remain an instrument of the state, not under the direct control of the state itself. As military nearly impossible due to their complex and willing, aggressive existing structures. In many countries around the world, the military has individual, centralized, and joint institutions. However, in the United States, the armed forces have been organized in such a way that they have been divided into different branches so that it is almost impossible for them to unite and conduct a coordinated war against the nation. The American military is not a single institution. It is currently organized into 7 different branches: Army or Land Forces, Navy or Sea Forces, Air Force or Aerial Forces, Marine Corps, Space Force, and Coast Guard. Each of the individual branches has its own distinct command structure, manages an individual budget, fosters its unique organizational culture, and operates with specific institutional purposes. From a national perspective, these branches are somewhat cooperative and sometimes competitive. The culture of division has been maintained by an Army general's side, making it nearly impossible for an admiral of the United States Navy or a general of the Air Force to command any other branch within the military. Inside the Pentagon's institutional divisions and balance of power, it is very difficult to control the entire military apparatus through any single branch. Meanwhile, one of the least prominent parts of the American military structure is the National Guard, which is neither a federal nor a specific branch. In these, each state has its own National Guard. Each state's governor is the commander of their respective state's National Guard. The National Constitution of the United States. That is, in the United States, there are 5 different National Guard units operating, controlled by 50 different governors, although the president can activate the National Guard for federal purposes. However, under normal circumstances, they remain under the control of the state government. If any branch of the federal military rebels, then governors of various states can use their National Guard to suppress that rebellion. This arrangement distributes the power outside Washington, D.C. Distributing power to states leads to substantial decentralization. 6. Beyond the military forces, the National Guard's reserve forces are in Iraq. 2. It has been massively and extensively deployed, integrating it closely with major military command. Departments such as the Department of Homeland Security, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Drug Enforcement Administration, as DEA, There are numerous federal agencies with their own established institutions. Additionally, many states have their own police departments. Each county sheriff's department and each city's own police department. The United States has approximately 18,000 different law enforcement agencies. The alliance's leadership and structure ensure that no single component of the National Guard's reserve force is under centralized control. To successfully execute any mission, it is not necessary to involve only the different branches of the Army. Moreover, their National Guard and thousands. The technological organization Saad and Ain must also confront potential adversaries. The integrated division opposes America's most powerful actual strategic defense platforms. The Shangbathenic Law, along with existing institutional structures, may have become even stronger than previously, which are deeply ingrained in the mindset of American military forces. This is their professional direction, discipline, and priority of principles. It teaches them to remain loyal to military governance. At world-class military academies like the Army's West Point, Navy's Annapolis, or the Air Force's Colorado Springs, cadets are not only taught combat skills. Instead, they are also educated in civilian control, or the concept of military command is periodically introduced. They are taught not to arbitrarily determine policy. 2. To implement policies determined by seasoned military leaders. From there, the role of the military forces is to serve the country, not to govern the country. In this profession, the concept is fundamentally rooted in American military institutions. Transitioning from merely being soldiers, members of the military defense formally begin their duties by taking solemn oaths and clearly establishing their specific responsibilities. This constitution is of utmost importance, and every word of it holds significant meaning. They do not pledge allegiance to any specific president, any general, or each dedicated member of any political party formally pledges their unwavering support and diligent defense of the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, meaning support the Constitution of the United States against all enemies in order to counter the actions of foreign and domestic adversaries. The term domestic enemies or internal enemies is used very severely. It has been established that if even within the country, any person holding a high government position attempts to violate the Constitution, the military force is responsible. To prevent the violation of the Constitution, that person is not allowed. This provision assigns the military a role as an apolitical and constitutional defender. In the pride of American culture, this concept known as American exceptionalism or American distinctiveness already exists. It is the belief that American society is different and superior to that of many other countries because it is founded on independent democracy and the rule of law. Within this belief lies a military doctrine in the United States: no political changes. It represents the supremacy of that foundational code, which has made America what it is. This cultural belief has deeply ingrained itself among members of the military. Fall is a vessel in Ubhudane to Daranaka and Achol, and almost a patriotic malo. I have faith in Qatar. The American military, like a nation, is a complex institution rooted in diverse societal levels, ethnicities, religions, and ideologies. Striving groups hindered in this complex military environment may see themselves as national defenders and attempt to seize power, escalating cultural and ideological rivalry. That persistent and invisible force continuously and effectively keeps the American military actively engaged, fully committed, and strategically aligned with its extensive and carefully crafted directives. The robust American military structure does not prevent leaders from historically experiencing disagreements. In the United States, a powerful military control system does not mean military leaders and generals haven't faced opposition or dissent. However, in reality, these numbers have been settled within the constitutional framework. It does not spill out to the public. During crises, the Union commander General McClellan had significant organizational skills, but was hesitant to follow commands. He was a highly skilled and fierce strategist within President Abraham Lincoln's esteemed administration, yet he often showed hesitancy in carrying out the president's strict and unwavering orders. McClellan personally considered Lincoln to be a unique leader. He even sought opportunities to compete for the presidential position. McClellan personally viewed Lincoln as a highly distinctive and exceptional leader, and even actively sought various avenues to compete seriously for the presidency. However, his complete dissent and debate show that he never thought of directing the army towards Washington. Ultimately, Lincoln exercised his constitutional authority to remove McClellan from his position. This is proven during the war that even elected military leaders make decisive choices. During the Korean War, General Douglas MacArthur was a legendary and extremely popular military commander. However, he limited President Harry Truman's war policies and publicly expressed dissent. Third, MacArthur was in favor of employing nuclear bomb attacks to further intensify the war. He began to challenge the president's policies by writing letters to Congress members and making public statements. There was increasing pressure on the command's leadership. In April 1951, Truman made a very courageous and controversial decision. He is the most preferred general and dismissed him from his position. Truman said, "I dismissed him because he has undermined our country's constitution. In order to maintain proper hierarchy, I decided to dismiss him because I cannot allow any theater commanders to make strategic decisions beyond their authority." This particular event stood as the most forceful and absolutely decisive action within American military leadership history. It has been proven by a general that no matter how much he is beloved by the people or dishonored. 3. The supremacy of the law. Many such incidents have also occurred in recent history. During the Vietnam War, the Johnson administration had conflicts with the Pentagon. During the Afghanistan War, after General Stanley McChrystal criticized Obama administration officials in Rolling Stone magazine, he was forced to resign. Also recently, during the final days of President Trump's administration, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, led by Chairman General Mark Milley, played key roles, questioned by stretching the constitutional provisions of some presidential decisions. And parliamentary Castro Pur, Newton is known to have taken wooden-like measures. These events demonstrate that civil and military relations are not always harmonious. But the channels have been resolved according to significant political and in opposition to the American military operations, historical and structural protections have remained, implying the strengthening of the country. But modern-day America is now facing a number of new and complex challenges regarding the long-term sustainability of its security structures, raising new questions. Society and politics today are victims of unprecedented and aimless erosion. The division between Democrats and Republicans is merely due to ideological differences, according to the system. It has emerged in a deep cultural and ideological context. This trend is influencing military forces similarly to other institutions in society. When governing within the country, political leaders begin to perceive both the military personnel and themselves increasingly as internal enemies or adversaries. And when democratic processes are questioned, political instability arises for the military forces. It becomes chaotic and disorderly. In recent years, the American populace and political leaders have disorganized democratic institutions and election systems. Court and trust divisions and secular mediators have deteriorated. Without hope, sudden catastrophe brings silence. When the general public and the nation's elite lose faith in their democratic institutions, they might turn to alternative authoritarian solutions. In Germany, the military has taken a stance. Again, some political leaders in politics use military rhetoric against them. They have attempted to utilize state resources in a way that undermines professional integrity. Using the military in political assemblies undermines generals. Involving political figures in military units highlights the military's undemocratic nature. The military's ties with political parties hinder cooperation with established ones. When closely allied with political parties, the progress of unified parties becomes challenging for their constituents. Such military-political relationships either disrupt or destroy peaceful relations. Meanwhile, the Pentagon itself has targeted, within the various military forces, the unauthorized infiltration of authoritarian and extremist groups continues to present an increasingly serious problem. These groups do not adhere to democratic principles. Instead, they follow specific racial or chauvinistic ideologies. Although their numbers are still very few, their presence poses a significant threat to the unity and strength of the military forces. On the 21st of March 2000, American forces launched an attack on a key government installation in a crowded area. Among the participants were several retired military personnel or veterans, and even some active duty soldiers were actively involved in the project. Although this was not classified as a military coup, the military leadership quickly and firmly condemned the incident. However, this demonstrates how deeply regional divisions have penetrated the country. Additionally, several military factions are influenced by extreme ideologies. These Abusoy challenges are provided solely in English.